is the University of Michigan.
Touchdown, Michigan!
And midcourt, extra pass.
And it goes for the win! The three-pointer by Jordan Poole! Down the sideline! Peoples-Jones! Touchdown, Wolverines!
All right, welcome to Blue by 90. I am Justin, joined by Jack and Kalen here, and thankfully we have Michigan basketball. So thankfully we have something to distract us from this goddamn football team. The basketball team looked pretty dang good against Bowling Green. So let's go around and just get immediate thoughts. I want you guys to give so Bowling Green, they beat Bowling Green 96-82. Mm-hmm. Immediate thoughts. We'll give like an early 0 to 90 here.
I like it.
Hot take, quick take on the basketball team.
Give the people what they want.
Exactly. We'll just go right into it. So, Jack, go ahead.
I'm ready. My initial thoughts, right? The transfers. These two guys, Shawnee Brown and Mike Smith, showed out and played like they'd been around this team for years. Shawnee was the high scorer of the game with 19 points. Went 6 of 8 total shooting, 5 of 7 from 3, ended up with 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a little bit of a balanced game. And then Mike Smith, 16 points, 8 rebounds. What more do you want from your point guard? And he went 7 of 8 from free throw line. I mean, two great transfers that stood out. Franz, I think he had a tough game. He got hurt a little bit halfway through the game. Livers went solid. He had 9 rebounds, 17 points. I mean, basically what you're going to expect out of Livers is a pretty close to a double-double almost every game from that position. And Hunter Dickinson, man, freshman, played real well. I think he had 8 rebounds himself, and he scored 11 points. So I'm hyped. I'm hyped for Michigan basketball. I can't wait to see what happens the remainder of the season with Juwan Howard and all his talent he's got.
Love it.
I thought the transfers actually played pretty well. I mean, from what I saw at the beginning of the game, I thought at first I was like, I see a couple missed threes here, and I was like, what's going on? And then I saw Isaiah Livers hit a couple on his back-to-back shots, and I was like, okay, they're finding the groove, they're into it. And then the other thing I noticed was Bowling Green actually seemed to be like pretty solid team. So I think the win there actually is good going forward for this team.
Yeah, I think it's a solid win. I am a little concerned about streaky shooting because, like you said, Kalen, they struggled in the first half. And if that wasn't Bowling Green, if it's a Big Ten team, they probably are down some just because they can't hit those shots. But then in the second half, they start hitting them, and it seems like a completely different team. We saw that a lot in the last couple of years where they would just go cold sometimes, and then it's a completely different team. And so I'm a little discouraged by. But everything else, I mean, I think this team is deep as shit. This team is 8, 9, 10 guys deep. I don't know. I mean, 3 freshmen played, including the 2 transfers. So between 3 freshmen and 2 transfers, 5 completely new guys got legitimate minutes in game 1 of the year. That says a lot about what Juwan Howard's trying to do, bring in guys that can compete for the Big Ten and everything else. And then when you combine 5 legitimate new faces with Franz Wagner, Isaiah Livers, Eli Brooks, Austin Davis, Brandon Johns, I think that there's no reason that Michigan basketball can't compete for a Big Ten title this year. I know that the Big Ten's deep as hell as well, but I don't see, from a talent perspective and a coaching perspective and everything else, they should be right up there.
Yeah, and they're legitimately 8 deep. And the 2 question marks for me are freshmen, Terrence Williams and Zeb Jackson. Those are highly touted guys, and it was their first game. I mean, didn't even get that much playing time. So if they can pan out, I mean, this team's going to be real good, and there's going to have a lot of guys that they can rely on.
So, yeah, speaking of the transfers, first of all, I did not think that Shawnee Brown was a 3-point shooter. Did you guys? I figured him as kind of a Charles Matthews, but even like more inside type, like stronger and just gonna body guys and get to the rim. But I did not think he'd be going, whatever he went from three, like light. And I'm not gonna expect him to go lights out from three every game, but I didn't even expect him to be a threat from there. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I expected more of a Charles Matthews type, like great defensive player, solid inside, mid range, but he was hitting threes, man. He went five or seven, and he was a high scorer, like I said before, 19 points. Granted, I think Michigan's offense did a great job of finding the open guy, and he found a lot of open shots, so he was able to hit those. But I mean, if we can imagine if Charles Matthews would have been a reliable 3-point shooter. Man, that team would have done even more than what they did. I mean, I think they went Sweet 16. He might have been, was he on that Final Four team?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and Shondy's a more physical guy, like you said. So I was pumped with what I saw of Shondy Brown.
I mean, the thing is that not only Shondy Brown, I mean, you're talking about if Charles Matthews was a knockdown 3-point shooter. What if Xavier Simpson was a knockdown 3-point shooter, and how that would have changed Michigan? And that's what I'm thinking about Mike Smith.
Yeah.
Mike Smith now can spot up in the corner, and the rest of the offense can work, and he's still a threat over there. Because I think when Xavier Simpson didn't have the ball in his hands, he's not a threat, right? If he's not driving to the basket, then he's not a threat. But now with Mike Smith, you have to stay on him. You can't leave your guy and leave him open in the corner and anywhere. So those two guys, I mean, shit, those are two hell of debuts for them. I was not expecting them to just be like two of Michigan's leaders right off the bat.
Yeah, and bro, I gotta ask you, man. You put out the tweet Saturday with Cade McNamara in the highlights. Do you think Mike and Cade go to the same barber? Do you think they're both going to Lady Jane's with those hats? Do you think that plays a huge impact in what's going on in these games?
I think so. There can't be any argument against it. I mean, now we're just a highlights school. We're a hair with highlights school. Isaiah Livers has the head of hair as well. He just needs some tips. He has kind of the same hair as Mike, but he needs some highlights in there. And then I mean that'll take us to the top. Yes, I believe that. I mean, what do you guys think? I might have to shave my head, but before I shave my head, I'm definitely getting highlights for Cade.
Dude, I remember in 5th grade, or maybe no, what was I? 3rd grade. I went as Bart Simpson for Halloween. So I had like the blue jean shorts, orange shirt, and I did the frosted tips and spiked my hair up. I love it, man. This little Backstreet Boys in sync too. I mean, JT back in the day, man. Frosted tips are always a good look. I don't care what anybody says.
JT was the GOAT, and first of all, so I was definitely doing sun in my hair, like for spring break, and trying to get some natural. I did that every spring break, I think, from like elementary school through middle school. I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm all in on Cade and Mike Smith. That is a legit Bowling Green team, though. We kind of touched on that, but damn. First of all, is it Justin Turner? Jordan Turner? Jay Turner. Jay Turner, just like Mr. P from Indiana.
That's
Jimmy
right.
Turner.
That's right. Not sure. I know the first initial, but that's
still
about
not sure.
Mr. P.
He's legit. And then the Diggs dude,
Trey Diggs.
He had 0 points at halftime, and he ended up with 21. So
he was their leading scorer, right?
Yeah, that's fucking crazy, dude.
But senior, always looking at a grad transfer option. I don't know, man. Might have a shot.
I saw you tweeted that.
Oh, yeah.
I like that a lot.
Where do you think this Juwan Howard team, you think they're going to like improve week to week and we'll see like real improvement, or you think what we've seen today is kind of what we're going to see for the rest of the year?
I mean, for me, and like I said before, and I've said this a million times, I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of Franz Wagner, but I'm not as high on him as
Hater.
everybody else is.
Mhm.
You can call me a hater. That's totally fine. But he had a bad game, right? I don't expect to see that from him the remainder of the season. I think there's always going to be hot guys that have big games. Like Shawnee Brown's not going to play this every game. Mike Smith's not going to have this kind of game every game. Hunter Dickinson's not going to have this kind of game every game. I think Isaiah, it's fair to expect he'll have this kind of game. I mean, he only shot 50%, and he shot less than 40 from 3-point. I mean, I think it's fair to expect this kind of offense from this team, but Franz should do better for most games, and I think the offense is going to look really good. I mean, they did a great job. They looked like fucking San Antonio Spurs with Greg Popovich, just passing the ball around, making sure to get it to the open guy. That's the biggest thing I noticed.
Glad
But,
we're keeping our expectations down. They're now NBA Finals good.
But
Greatest team of all time.
I think with basketball, my expectations and what I see is way more realistic because I don't have the crazy fandom like I do for Michigan football. But I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten, but I think top 5 finish is fair to expect, 100%.
I think that first of all, Franz Wagner just needs to hit. He was 0 for 4 from 3, and every single one of them, he was wide the fuck open. Like, I disagree with you, Jack, in the fact that I think he's a very good player, and he's going to be a super huge NBA prospect by the end of the year because he's 6'10", can shoot the ball. He's a perfect NBA player, honestly.
Yeah, well, let's put this back in the football terms here. 6'10", the size and everything. Remember what we thought about Joe Milton?
Yeah, except for Franz Wagner did it for a whole season when Joe Milton hasn't. So.
All right.
He was our okay. Franz was our I think he was our second leading scorer last year.
Yeah, I think so. And he shot well from 3 at the end of the year. He brought it up.
At the end of the year.
I think he was our leading 3-point shooter percentage-wise last year. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's not going to be good. I think he's a solid player. I just don't. I mean, people are just saying he's going to go nuts. That's where I'm just not on the page of that yet. I think he's going to be really solid, but I just don't see the first round talent yet. And I'm not saying I don't think. Yeah, and I'm not saying I don't think he'll get there, but I don't see it yet.
To me, it felt like we were missing out on some offensive rebound opportunities. Now, this is where I don't watch enough basketball to know if my expectations are realistic or not. So I'm kind of like posing this as a question to you. Am I way off base with this, saying like we should be getting all these offensive rebounds? Or what did you guys see?
I think offensive rebounds are very hard to get, honestly. So you have to be in a great position for an offensive rebound. Also, you have to have really good luck with the bounce off the rim. So I wouldn't there. You can tell a really good rebounding team will get more offensive rebounds because they're in good position. They crash the boards after every shot. And so then the bounces start going to you when you do that all the time. I didn't think we were an unbelievable rebounding team. I think Brandon Johns is our best rebounder by far on the team. I think Austin Davis is a really good rebounder. Hunter Dickinson's more, he's not going to just crash he's a good rebounder, but he's not going to crash the boards as much because he's more of like an offensive guy and he's a complete player where Brandon Johns and Austin
7'1" just helps. Exactly. He's got huge size. Yeah,
exactly. But like Brandon Johns goes up with authority for every single rebound. And Austin Davis is huge, and he's not a touch guy really. I mean, he's evolved into that a little bit, but I can see we went into a spot where we had, I think it was Eli Brooks at the point, and then Franz, Livers, Johns, and Dickinson. That is a huge lineup. That is a gigantic lineup. Your 2 guard is 6'10".
Yeah.
And then Livers is 6'8", Johns is 6'8" or 6'9", and then Dickinson 7'2". So I mean, we can go. That's where I think the versatility of this team can really, really take this, take them into a different level. Now, Juwan Howard's going to have to figure out when to use them in a small ball lineup or a big lineup. But we can go either way because you can have, Zeb Jackson, Mike Smith, Eli Brooks, and then Isaiah Livers, and Brandon Johns or somebody. You can play small ball where every single person can hit the three as well, but still guard them. So I think that the depth and the versatility of this team is what is most important. They can play against any team in the country. And now that we've talked a little bit about basketball ourselves, let's welcome on our special guest, Anthony Bellino. He is the Michigan basketball announcer, PA announcer, as well as the host of X's and Bros on the Michigan Sports Radio Network. You can hear him on the radio all across Michigan. So let's go to that interview. All right, and now we welcome on Anthony Bellino, our special guest for the day. Anthony is the Michigan basketball announcer for men's and women's, and he also has a radio show in the morning, X's and Bros, and so you can find that on stations all across the state. Anthony, you're on your way home from the basketball game versus Bowling Green. How you doing?
I'm doing well outside this weather right now. We got a little rain, a little rain. It's a little cold outside, a little dreary, but that's Michigan this time of year.
For sure. And so Michigan got a solid win. I think they ended up 96-82. Let's first talk about the atmosphere with no fans in Chrysler Arena. They had some plugged-in crowd noise, I noticed. What was it like just without the Maze Rage, any fans or anything going on like that?
So the atmosphere standpoint, the pumped-in crowd noise is something that we're all kind of used to, whether it's, the NFL or college football, Major League Baseball. I think as a society, we're a little bit more accustomed to it. But actually being there on game days is completely different. Ford Field for the Lions, place is empty. It sounds weird. Today, because basketball is much more of an intimate sort of atmosphere where players and the game itself kind of thrive on the environment. And I go back to, we had back-to-back games a couple years ago against Purdue and North Carolina. Both were home games, and you couldn't hear yourself think. And I really think that the crowd played a much larger role in both of those games than anybody will ever admit, just because the student section, the Maze Rage, they're into it. The regular crowd is into it. The momentum, the swing in momentum, and the swing and the shift and emotion within a basketball game, it changes drastically for a sport like hoops. So tonight it was different. There was a segment in the second half where I looked at my boss, Kurt Weisenbaugh, and we both were like, hey, if the crowd was here right now, they'd be going nuts. And it would have had a monumental impact on the flow of the game. It's just not, you just can't recreate that emotion and that passion that fans can bring to an arena. So I think that it's going to take more time to get used to in basketball. Definitely, it makes me feel a lot more uncomfortable and a lot more awkward than I already do feel on the microphone because you don't have that extra juice from fans yelling. But all in all, we got through it. We did it. It's the new normal. We just got to roll with the punches. I honestly feel bad for a lot of the seniors, though, because to lose that element of the game and to lose that playing in front of friends and family, playing in front of your classmates and the students, and everything that entails and brings to the atmosphere, that's who I really feel bad the most for.
Yeah, and so you're right there on the the press bench there. So did you feel that it affected the players at all? You're talking about the seniors that you feel bad for. Obviously, I think you're talking about the couple plays in the second half when the crowd would have gotten going was Shawnee Brown's back-to-back threes. It seemed like he was on fire, which was great to see from the transfers from Wake Forest. But yeah, did you feel like any of the guys had trouble kind of getting up their energy at all without the crowd?
You know what? No, I think at the end of the day, for the most part, it's still basketball. I mean, these guys are used to playing in AAU gyms where there is really no crowd. They're used to practicing, playing in different scrimmage situations to where at the end of the day, it's still basketball. So I don't think that, I don't think it really I don't think it hurt him at all, but it definitely wouldn't have hurt him had fans been there, because you mentioned the Sean D triples. I mean, that guy was shooting the lights out of the ball there for a quick minute, and it was one of those times where, I think that would have gave them even more juice. But I thought that from an energy standpoint, considering there's no crowd, I thought they were great.
Yeah, so you mentioned Sean D there, obviously shooting the lights out. We talked about Franz didn't have his best game. He went down with an ankle injury in the first half for a minute, but came out and played in the second half, but not a whole lot. Isaiah Livers was the leading scorer for the Wolverines. I believe he had 19. So, I mean, what was there anybody surprising out there that you saw? I know Mike Smith's the new guy, and I think to me he was the most surprising. But what were you surprised by from the Wolverines tonight?
I think that from a collective standpoint, the way that they are not afraid to share the basketball. I didn't see Zeb Jackson chucked one a little early. He got into the game and he fired one up. But outside of that, I didn't see any me shots. When coaching, you talk a lot about team shots versus me shots, or we shots versus me shots. And I think that this team and the way that they look like they really enjoy playing with each other, I think that that's going to bode well for the future. I think the fact that they are so unselfish with the basketball, that's huge. And the fact that it seems like they enjoy watching their teammates have success. And I was wondering how, because of the depth of this team and how many guys there are, there just aren't enough minutes to go around to get everybody what I think would be, and I think you could ask Coach Howard the same thing. That's going to be the biggest puzzle, if you will, is how to figure out how to get everybody the minutes that you think that they need, that they deserve, that they've earned. And it's just not going to happen. There's just a plethora of talent on this team. But the one thing that really stood out to me is the fact that everybody really seems to enjoy playing with one another. And for Franz, I mean, Franz was decent. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't great. But what Franz does really well is he plays his game within the game. Like, he's not the kind of guy that needs the ball in his hands 24/7, and if he's not getting it, he's not going to be an impact. That you can't leave him open no matter where he's out of the court. And he was very good defensively tonight as well. He always seems to be kind of in the right spots. He's got a good grasp of what they want to do conceptually on defense. And he doesn't need to score 20 to really be an MVP caliber player on this team. And I think that that's really something very unique that Franz can bring to the table.
And Anthony, looking at the starting five, so we had Livers, Austin Davis, Franz, Eli Brooks, and Mike Smith were the five guys starting tonight. After seeing those performances from Sean D. Brown and Hunter Dickinson, I mean, does that realign what you would think the top five or the five starters might be?
I think that a lot of times in basketball we get really focused and concerned about who starts the game, and I think what's most important is the total minutes at the end of the game, the rotation of who's coming in at what time and under what circumstance. And then also when you look back at the box score afterwards, I don't have it in front of me obviously because I'm driving, but if you look back at the box score to see how the minutes were dispersed, I don't know if you necessarily need to adjust that five. I mean, coming out of the scrimmage that we had last Friday, the inter-squad scrimmage, it kind of felt like that was going to be the five that would start. I mean, Mike Smith provides such a poised element at point guard that this team needs. He's great offensively. He can get the ball anywhere that it needs to be in the blink of an eye. I mean, that guy's got some go. He is impressive. And I think with Eli Brooks, you can kind of look at those two going, okay, that could be one game. That might be a matchup where, they might run point guard, shooting guard. In the very next game, you might see Mike Smith start, and maybe they move Franz to the 2, Sean D to the 3, and bring Eli in off the bench, or vice versa. And I just think that because of the depth that they have, you'll probably see that starting five get tinkered with a little bit until the team gets really comfortable with that rotation that they want to have. But Sean D, I mean, he could start if Juwan wants to give him the go. He could definitely start. There's no doubt about it. He brings a physical, aggressive nature to this team. Doesn't say a whole lot. Got to, kind of has that mean mug sort of like death stare, just look you in the eyes and break your soul type of deal. I like that kind of guy. He's not afraid to go after a loose ball. And if you ran into his elbow, sorry about your luck. Like you're gonna hit the deck. But I really liked him.
Oh, me too, man. I saw something on Twitter during the game where people were throwing comparisons to him and Charles Matthews. Now, like you said, I think Shondy's a way more physical guy, and it looks like he's better offensively. Do you think Shondy can kind of Do you think he'll have a better season at Michigan than Matthews did when he transferred in?
I think so, just because I think that Sean D. And I loved Charles Matthews, and Charles Matthews' game was so pretty. You know, everything about Charles Matthews, his jumper, the way that he elevated off the ground, the high point of the ball when he was releasing that thing was like he started to hit those turnarounds, and it was like, oh, that's money, that's good. But that was really his staple. I think that Sean D. can do a little bit more aggressively taking the ball to the basket. Obviously, we saw it tonight. He can shoot it from deep if he's open. Mm-hmm. And then defensively, Charles Matthews was a good defender, but I think that Sean D. Brown is a much more aggressive defender. And I think bringing that sort of element, that attitude, that if you wanted to compare the two, I think that Sean D. will have a little bit more success. Yeah, I think that's fair.
But I think that the fact that bringing in Sean D. and Mike Smith into this team, it makes it a such different team than without them, obviously. But them being able to come in and transfer in and be contributors right away, and especially with the three-point shot. Mike Smith had a couple threes. Sean D. obviously had his threes. Now, that opens up Michigan's offense so much more. I know Xavier Simpson was an unbelievable player for Michigan, very valuable for all 4 years that he was here. But he was not a deep threat except for, a couple games. And so if they can open up the floor with, essentially 1 through 4 able to shoot the three really well, then that makes this team very, very dangerous. And so going back to the rotation talk, I thought that in the first half, Juwan was struggling a little bit. There were some times where he had, Terrence Williams in there for probably way too long. He was without a center in the game for a while, which has been my really only criticism of Juwan Howard last year was he wasn't comfortable with the flow of the game all the time and getting enough guys in. And sometimes he'd try to get too many guys in. And I thought he did that a little bit in the first half. But then in the second half, he really found his rhythm as far as the rotations go. He got everybody some minutes. Brandon Johns Jr. had really good minutes. Hunter Dickinson had really, really good minutes. Zeb Jackson got in there. Terrence Williams kind of found his groove in the second half. So from an in-game coaching perspective, do you see Juwan Howard kind of taking a pretty big step here from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I think that when you look at what maybe he was trying to accomplish tonight, then also, last year you're throwing a lot at him when it comes to, all right, now you're going to be the head coach of this program. You got all these new guys. You got to learn all these new guys in the off season. And then you got to figure out how this puzzle all comes together. And so when trying to figure out last year, for example, Austin Davis came on strong midway through the season, and that was huge because John Teske didn't really have the year that I think a lot of people expected him to have. And then what were you going to do on the wings with Franz and then Isaiah Livers getting hurt, and just trying to figure out exactly how that portion of the team kind of comes together with that rotation. I think that tonight you could do a little bit more. Bowling Green is a good team. Let's not get that twisted. Like, Bowling Green should win the Mid-American Conference. And I think that if you were to have just a mid-majors only tournament, I think Bowling Green could really do some damage. I mean, I'm very intrigued by, Justin Turner, who's probably going to play pro ball overseas at some point. Daquan Plowden, he's another nice player. And then they had Trey Diggs, who was just, that guy wouldn't miss in the second half from three. And he's just a freshman. So, BG is good, but it never felt as if BG was going to be able to take that next step and grab a lead and be able to sustain it if they did. So I think that maybe a little bit of comfort there to where, hey, let's try some things. Let's just take a look. Let's see what this looks like. That way we have some film on it so that he and Howard Isley and Sonny Washington and Phil Martelli can go back and say, hey, we kind of like this look. We don't like that. And I think that, from a non-conference standpoint, because these games are so few and far between before we get into conference play, you're probably going to see some of this against Oakland on Sunday as well, where they'll try to play with as many different combinations as possible, get guys some minutes in a real game situation that isn't a scrimmage, that has some ramifications. I thought Terrence looked a little shaky. Zeb Jackson looked a little rough as well. Very impressed with Hunter Dickinson offensively. Defensively in the scrimmage, I thought Austin Davis got the best of him just on an experience standpoint. But Hunter Dickinson's game offensively, very, very refined for just being a freshman, and he is a little older. You got to mention that too. I think he's already 20 if I'm not mistaken. But he's older than the average freshman, so that will help him. But I think that for a game like tonight, a good opportunity for Juwan and his staff to get as many guys in as they can, play them in that kind of scenario, and figure out when they go back and look at the film, what do they like, what don't they like, what worked, what didn't work, and then how do they expand upon that.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to look at for this Michigan team, and it's not like there's one guy. I know everyone's focused on Franz and Livers, but holy smokes, when you look at the depth of this team, I really think that if Livers did go down for 10 games again this year, God willing he doesn't, but I think that they would be okay. They've got a lot of guys that they can plug in now. And so that was obviously we were, nervous about Franz in the first half, but they were fine without him in the second half, which is good to see because, you never know what's going to happen with COVID, with everything else in this season. I did want to touch on too for a second here, move away from men's. I know you announced the women's basketball game today versus Central Michigan, and I know Nas kind of went off for a little bit here. This could be the best Michigan women's basketball team that they've ever had, especially under Kim's Barnes-Arico. What do you have about the women's team that played already today?
Oh, they look good. They definitely want to work inside out with Nas. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they will feed that ball. They will throw that ball inside through hell or high water. They're going to pound that rock inside to Nas. And I think that, I think she went for 24 maybe, if I remember correctly, something like that. And it didn't even feel like she was trying to get 24. You know what I'm saying? Like all of her points come right around the bucket. She did hit a mid-range jumper that was great. But that team definitely wants to push it inside. And you talk about depth. That team's got it too. I mean, they got Maddie Nolan and Michelle Sedor, Danielle Roush. They got very good players that can come off the bench. And they added a girl, Leah Brown from Nebraska, who was the sixth man of the year last year at Nebraska. And she's stepping in as easily the second best player on the team behind Nas. I mean, Leah Brown, she's a game changer for that team. So they're going to be good. And we can see Michigan in both the men and the women be ranked in the top 25, both of them, throughout the entire season. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
That's pretty awesome. We really haven't seen that much. Obviously the men's team has been pretty dang good, but the women's team hasn't. They've had some runs for sure, but they haven't been consistent up in the top 25. So that's great to see. I know we're KBA stands over here. She's an Orange Theory member.
That's right, baby.
Jack runs the Orange Theory studio in Ann Arbor. So we love KBA and her staff. I just wanted to touch on them, but wanted to also get your take.
Can I throw this out here? Can I throw this out here real quick? One thing I really admire about Kim Barnes-Arico and Juwan Howard is how supportive they are of one another. Like Juwan Howard came in and sat in on their scrimmage I don't even know what day that was, last Tuesday. He came in to watch for a little bit.
Wow.
If there's a game, a women's game, and the men's team is still on campus, Juwan Howard will sit courtside during the normal season. Obviously, now he's up in the stands. But he'll sit and he'll watch. And you watch him on Twitter, and he tweets out about their accomplishments. And he is you don't see that in a lot of programs across the country where the two programs, the men's and women's, are both kind of in sync at the same time. And it does feel like if you play basketball at Michigan, you're part of a bigger family that doesn't matter if you're playing for the men's or the women. You can get that support from both sides. And I don't know if enough people talk about what that can mean to a women's program. So, the women are coming out, high-fiving Juwan Howard. Like, at the end of the day, he's still Juwan Howard. He's still the guy who signed the 9-figure deal in the NBA. He's still a member of the Fab Five and a Michigan legend. And so I think it provides a really cool and very unique element to what Michigan basketball is, regardless if you're on the men's or the women's side.
Yeah, Anthony, I'm glad you brought that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, man. I mean, we saw it with when Shaundi was announced that he was cleared to play, how the team just rallied around Shaundi, and how he and Mike Smith both have said that Michigan basketball is such a family, and Juwan Howard has done such a great job to instill that with all the players, and to hear that he's supporting the women's team like that. I mean, just to have that family atmosphere around both programs is amazing. And KBA is such a great coach. All of her staff are amazing, and Michigan's a basketball school now, right?
I mean, I keep hearing that people call into the radio all the time. They want to tell me or they tweet at me. you're a basketball school now. And I'm like, well, that's great. I work for the basketball program. Like, why would I be upset about that? Like, thank God. I'm glad in a regular season that there's 12,000 people at Chrysler losing their minds over every possession. Like, I love it. Are you kidding me? It's great.
Now,
Yeah.
Anthony, do you feel slighted that they're giving a lot of that credit to Juwan Howard and KBA? Like, I mean, they should be throwing that to you, right? You're the one that's doing all the announcing for the games.
I mean, I might be able to walk out there, maybe last one possession before somebody changed directions on me and blew both my legs off. I can tell you, like, that's one thing that I just don't know if people understand how fast and how intense every single possession is at the college level. It's a different game out there, man. It's wild to watch up close.
Well, I think it's funny too. Like, you watch Austin Davis, and he's obviously incredibly improved over the last couple of years. But I remember watching him 2 years ago, and I was like, holy shit, this guy can barely get up and down the floor. But still, like, I say that, and he still would absolutely dominate me and everyone else out there. Like, the talent level is so high, especially at the D1 level and in the Big Ten, obviously. And so I did want to talk about the Big Ten, looking around the Big Ten, because it's seen as the deepest conference in the country. Michigan is, I would think, a shoe-in tournament team right now, preseason, and but they're still picked to be fifth, I think, in the Big Ten right now. So when you look at Michigan State, Wisconsin, Illinois played incredible earlier today. I'm sure, Bellino, you didn't see because you were doing the women's game, but Illinois shot the lights out, had a school record for most three-pointers made. So when you look at the Big Ten, and I know you're driving, so you don't have it all in front of you, where do you see Michigan coming out at the end of the season? Do you think they really are the fifth best team? Are they going to end up lower, ninth like they were last year? Or could they actually go into, the last couple weeks of the season competing for a Big Ten title?
So a buddy of mine coaches at Ohio University, and they're in Illinois right now. They're at that tournament with the Fighting Illini. And I asked him, I texted him the other night, and I said, hey, his name's Kyle Barlow. I said, Barlow, good luck with Io and Kofi for Illinois. I said, I don't know what you're going to do against them, but hold on to your butts, right? I think that I don't know. Everybody keeps picking Wisconsin. I'm not afraid. Wisconsin doesn't scare me. Luka Garza is a scary player. Like that dude, he can go for 40 at any time. Purdue is scary. Michigan State, if Joshua Langford can stay healthy, that team is scary. Michigan is tough. So I'm gonna move Wisconsin out of that. I'm gonna put Illinois in there, and I like shoot. If I had to pick a winner and not be biased at all, I think that Illinois, between Io DeSunmu and Kofi Coburn, those two guys alone, if they stay out of foul trouble during games and they can stay healthy, I don't see anybody really being able to stop those two. I mean, those guys are going to be a handful. So I like Illinois. I like Iowa and Luka Garza. I like Michigan. I like Michigan State. And I honestly think that depending on where the game's at, how does the ball bounce that night, it's a make or miss league. I think any one of those four you could really rotate near the top four. And if you told me one of those four won it, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Talking about with Michigan State, I feel like Foster Loyer has been a guy that, whether it's either he hasn't gotten an opportunity with Cassius there or hasn't needed to step up yet. The dude's got 15 points right now before the end of the first half. Yeah, he was draining some threes when I was watching before we jumped on. So I mean, if Foster can come in and be that replacement for Cassius, and Gabe Brown can continue to stay solid, Langford can stay healthy, like you said, Anthony. So Sparty's always going to be tough with Izzo. Illinois, I mean, Io's a fucking stud. And then the other guy that they have brought in, I mean, he's great. Luka Garza at Iowa is always going to be tough. I mean, I think Michigan being picked to finish fifth isn't bad at all. I'll take that.
Not a slight on Michigan.
Yeah, I'll take that going to the Big Ten tournament any day.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think it's a slight at all. I think that the conference is really that good, especially up at the top. I think that you have some legitimate contenders to be Final Four teams. And so if the national media and the Big Ten media they believe Michigan will pick up fifth to begin the season. That's fine by me. Good. I'd rather be a medium dark horse. Oh, medium dark horse, is that even a thing? Did I just make that up? That's possible. But I'd rather be that. And as for Foster Loyer, man, you think about all the expectation. You think about all the hype surrounding him, coming from where he comes from high school-wise to go to Michigan State, all the pressure on that young man, and then to not really get the time that maybe he wanted because of, Cassius Winston. Those are huge shoes to fill. I mean, good luck with that.
Right.
The expectation's always been there, and if he could just get comfortable, and find himself within Tom Izzo's offense, I do kind of hope for the best for him because he did become an internet meme there for a while.
He was a
for people
surfboard.
who,
He was a surfboard for a while, and I have to say I'm guilty of tweeting that out as well or retweeting it. So, yeah. It was
That's true. The guy was a surfboard. What are you going to do? Like the guy was.
sorry,
come on.
he was,
He was. Yeah.
What do you want me to say? Come on.
Power of the internet.
All right. So Michigan obviously starts out 1-0 there. That's a pretty good start. I think, like you said, damn, that Bowling Green team was good. I think they could compete in the lower half of the Big Ten probably. And like you said, they're gonna be the favorites to win the MAC as well. So yeah, that's a dang good team for Michigan to start off with when you're comparing it to, Illinois, who I think they started off with North Carolina A&T and they beat them by 50, So I think that'll actually help Michigan in the long run here to actually play a solid team, especially with no exhibitions, they're not in any preseason tournaments with any other Power 5 teams. So I think that could fare well for them. But let's see. Any other things? I know, Juwan Howard is just – how can you not love Juwan Howard? It blows my mind that Michigan fans went from John Beilein, who was so beloved and still is, even though he left and things didn't work out for him in the NBA, but he's still one of my favorite guys in the whole world. And then you have to scramble and find Juwan Howard and, you give him the job and then he does pretty well in year one, lands the number one recruiting class, now, is hoping to have a good year. And like you said, it's the little things that he does. And I think that there are a lot of schools and coaches that fake that relationship with the women's team and with other athletes and athletics and all that stuff. He's not faking that. He's not faking any of that. So I just want to get your take on more of Juwan Howard and where you think that he could take this program in the near future.
I mean, he could take it all the way to the top. I mean, he in the NCAA tournament is so fickle because it's a one and done, right? It's a one-game eliminator. It's not a series. The best team doesn't always win. It's not even the greatest way to determine a champion. That's why, the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, they work in series because you want to be able to prove who is the best team. They should be able to advance, where the NCAA tournament and the NFL playoffs is just survive and advance. It doesn't matter how you win by 1 or 100. You just got to win one game. In college basketball, the NCAA tournament, I mean, we look at all the storied Cinderella story runs throughout tournament history, and it's like they're knocking off major programs because they got hot for one game. But I think that Juwan Howard, with the success that he's been able to have already recruiting, he can take this team to a national championship. Maybe not this team this year, but I think that he can take the program there. I think that the Final Four is definitely reachable and attainable. And really, I mean, hell, I almost kind of expect it. But I don't put any pressure on that immediate success. And I think that if football taught us anything, it's that we as fans, we as media members, need to be able to pump the brakes and kind of process everything that's happening at once. And for Juwan Howard, a guy to come in, and yeah, the cupboards weren't bare, the shelves aren't empty, it's still Michigan at the end of the day. He had good success last year, I think, all things considered, and I think that they'll be successful this year. But what you touched on about, him being a genuine, authentic person, think about it. Juwan Howard doesn't need to be coaching right now. I mean, that guy's got enough, stashed away monetarily, and I'm not his accountant, so I can't confirm this. But over the course of his career, the money that he's made, he really enjoys coaching. He really enjoys working with young people, and I really think that he enjoys restoring maybe what was dampered by the Fab Five and the way that things had kind of went down as that team exited, and some of maybe the bad taste in the mouth that was left with a lot of fans. And I think that he's one of those people that really took that to heart. And I also think that when you look back at, Juwan Howard coming back to his alma mater to coach and be the head coach and have the impact that he's going to have on the program, on the school, on the kids that he's coaching, I think it's just a match made in heaven. I really do, because he is a genuine human being. And I think that because he doesn't need anything, I think that adds to it. They pay him because they pay him, but he was first in line to say, I'll take a pay cut. I'm saying, I'll take you could reduce my salary. That's fine. And I think that the person that he is only helps kind of embody the culture that the program wants.
I mean, it's worked out for him on the recruiting trail, and so I think that is, that's all you can ask for when you get the number one recruiting class in year 2. Things can only be working out well for you. So, that's I think that this season has a lot for Michigan, and I think that they have a lot of success to in the future here. So that's about all we've got for you, Bellino. Thank you so much for coming on. You can find Bellino on X's and Bros on the Michigan Sports Network on the radio all across Michigan. He's also your announcer at Michigan basketball and women's basketball. So go call into his show, harass his producer, Ryan Elke. Text in. I think you can do it all. So give him a hard time. I think he can take it. But thanks again for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, fellas. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you to Anthony Bellino for coming on with us, the voice of Michigan basketball and the voice of X's and Bros on Michigan Sports Radio Network. So we've talked a lot about basketball, so let's talk about football. I know this is I don't know, to me, this is an afterthought now. It's so fucking sad. But Michigan basketball comes on for 1 week, and do you guys feel the same way? Now Michigan football this weekend, especially with it being Thanksgiving weekend and all that going on, Michigan Penn State's kind of an afterthought to me.
I mean, normally, yeah, this is the end of the season. We got Ohio State coming up this weekend. It's already typically a sad fucking weekend for Michigan football fans. But I love the fact that Michigan basketball's going. So there's some sort of positivity around the program. And, guys, Penn State's 0-5. They've played some tough games with some good teams, but they're 0-5. Cade's the new starting quarterback. There's momentum going for Michigan football. There's some sort of hope here. There's some sort of hope. And I hate to get my hopes up and be fucking crushed again, but I do have hope for this game this weekend. How sad does that sound? I have hope that we can beat an 0-5 team this weekend. I'm not even 100% sure. Penn State's favored to win this fucking game, according to ESPN.
Wait, really?
The percentage, the FPI or the matchup predictor, Penn State's 53.2% chance to win.
No way.
I think Michigan has the spread, but the matchup predictor through ESPN is 53.2% Penn State will win this game.
Oh my God. I did not know that.
Yeah. So fuck, man. We'll see. Their defense is as bad as ours. We're both averaging 36 points per game.
What's the name of that guy that they have on College Game Day sometimes? Used to be an NFL kicker. Now he has his own show. I'm blanking on his name.
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee.
Hammer the over on this one.
That guy, according to him, the people in Vegas are time travelers who know the outcome to every sporting event. So if Vegas says that Michigan's going to win, Michigan's going to win. So I'll take that bet.
I mean, Vegas had Michigan winning against Wisconsin, didn't they?
They had 23-point favorites for Michigan State.
They got to keep you on your toes.
Yeah,
if I was a time traveler, I wouldn't have put that tweet out about fucking shaving my head. I'll tell you that.
God, I am so excited for this. Especially
for
with all the shit that I got, I am very excited for this.
For all our listeners out there who don't realize this, because I did not realize it until yesterday. I put a tweet out there from the Blue by 90 account, like, 2 months ago now, at least, that if Michigan didn't win at least 5 games this year for football, I would shave my head. And we're in a bad spot right now.
You gotta
Things
win
are
out.
Not looking good.
Rose full on the Cade for Heisman train. He's our savior. You guys hoping for the best. He's praying every bed before he goes to night, or every night before he goes to bed. It's like, please, Cade, I cannot shave my head here.
I will say I'm in a better spot than Wolverine Corner, because Wolverine Corner said that. Yeah, he said that if they don't win 5 games, he's gonna get calls have been made tattooed on his wrist. So I'd rather shave my head than get a tattoo. That's for sure.
Dude, you might as well grow your hair out now.
I hate that calls have been made tweet. Just seeing that over and over. So I hope he has to get it, and then I hope it never gets tweeted out again.
Happens again. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I still have a chance. We can get to 4-4 and then win the crossover game. That gets us to 5 wins, and then we don't even have to beat Ohio State. So
yeah, you didn't specify regular season, so you've got a chance in the crossover game.
Yeah, I definitely meant regular season, because I was looking at it as 5-3 for sure.
Yeah.
But I did not think that we'd fucking lose to Michigan State or Indiana. I didn't think Indiana would be good, first of all. I also didn't think that we'd suck ass. So that's true. Out there. I don't think anybody did. So yeah, good stuff. Can't wait. Cannot wait. So that's going to be that'll be the crossover game will be the 17th, I think, of December. So I'll have to shave my head and then go see all my family for Christmas. Okay, great. That's good stuff.
Good luck.
That's good stuff.
It's a great look.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, the game this weekend, Michigan is 2-3 versus 0-5 Penn State, but still Penn State is somehow favored to win as far as ESPN says.
So who's on Penn State? Who is their guy?
That's
as far as I'm concerned, Sean Clifford.
But he stinks. He's really bad.
He's like Christian Hackenberg. They're the same quarterback.
He looks to run every time, but he can't fucking run because he's a gumpy white dude. So yeah,
he's Austin Davis under center.
Exactly. If we can't beat Austin Davis under center,
Jesus.
Big country, help us out one time.
For real. But what is your take on this game? Do you think that this offense is for real? Is Cade for real? Or, and I hate to say this, is he John O'Korn versus Purdue circa 2017?
You know, I wish I would have done this before we started recording. I wish I would have You know what? I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to rewatch John O'Korn versus Purdue 2017 and see what he actually does. Because for me, Cade McNamara, man, he does what you want every quarterback to do, right? Give the receivers a chance to catch the ball. And we have talented receivers. They should be able to go up and win most opportunities that they have, right? That's what you'd expect. So, man, this is where I hate that I'm such a big fucking fan, where I'm like, you know what? He's the guy. He's the guy. I can't look at it through reality, right? Where I can't be like, all right, no, he's actually not that good. Like, we're gonna get killed against Penn State. So my honest feeling, I think he's the guy to go to. I don't think we can expect that kind of performance that he had against Rutgers, right? Because they're Rutgers. But I think he's more dependable than Joe Milton. You know, we don't need a big arm. We don't need a guy that can throw 85 yards. When's the last time we saw Joe throw a pass over 30 yards? When's the last time we saw him complete a pass over 30 yards? Cade has been able to do that. He's been able to hit guys on their routes right where they need to be, and he's a solid decision maker from what I've seen. So I think Cade's the guy. I think he's the guy. So far from what I've seen, I think he's the guy, and I think I'm going to say I'm not going to do a score prediction because I'm sure we're going to do a 0-90, but I'm confident in Michigan's ability to beat Penn State. And 0-5 Penn State. How fucking ridiculous is that? Jesus Christ.
Dude, I love Cade's ability to like judge what kind of pass he needs to throw to his receivers, right? Because we saw him throw some of those touch like lofted passes. We also saw him throw some like bullet like hard passes, and we even saw him throw a couple almost like quick little sidearm throws. So I'm like, dude, this kid, he knows his stuff. He's versatile. Like, he's pretty legit. And I think seeing him against, even though Penn State's 0-5, seeing him against their defense is going to give us, I think, a better gauge than Rutgers. Just Rutgers is improving, but they're still a little bit Rutgers, you know?
I mean, honestly, Penn State's defense might be as bad or worse than Rutgers.
It's very true. I haven't been watching Penn State.
That's why I think Cade will have another good game. But you'd expect from the talent level that Penn State's defense will be better. And I could see them showing up for a big game like this. Like, for them, this is a big game, right?
Right.
So I see on your end where it could be a bigger challenge for Cade.
Right. And it's almost not even for Cade. It's almost more, in my eyes, on the wide receivers. They might actually be, you know, going up against a DB who's covering them a little closer, giving them a little bit more of a hard time, harder release on your routes, and then makes it a tougher throw for Cade. I'm more worried about the little bit I saw of Penn State was I saw their running back towards the end of a game. They were losing by like 20, and their running back is like blowing through guys still. I'm like, dude, we can't stop anybody. So if they're blowing through defenses and losing by 20, like if we're losing by 7, their running back is blowing through Chris Hinton and our secondary and everybody. So
yeah,
I have no idea what's going to go down over there. So
I mean, the thing that just still blows my mind is, yes, Rutgers is improved. They have, I think, statistically one of the most improved offenses, if not the most improved offenses in all of football from last year to this year. Because like last year they were like historically bad. Like
7 points per game, I think, is what they scored.
Literally.
I think that's what it was.
Art Sitkowski was their quarterback last year. He averaged like 1 touchdown every 2 or 3 games and averaged like 3 picks a game. It was insanity how bad they were.
And okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be way fucking off by this, but I know he was an IMG quarterback.
Was he really?
A 4-star? Yeah, was he a 4-star guy?
I don't know. That's bad if he was.
IMG, right? But also the coaching staff. Greg Shannon was a huge upgrade. Correct me if I'm wrong. An Ohio State coordinator that came to Rutgers, right? So Ohio State, again, I'm just going to keep ringing those bells, man. They do shit right. Let's fucking bring somebody from that coaching tree as a coordinator.
No fucking shit. I mean, but the thing is that Ohio State won't let it happen where we somehow will let people go there. Anyways, but my point was that, yes, they're improved. They still have like 2 4-stars on the whole team, and we have 40. So, yes, they can be improved, and we can have injuries. But how are you still, from what it looked like in the Rutgers game, how are you still on the same talent level, on the same playing field? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. And for me, my question is, what's it going to take for Don Brown to be fired? Right? I mean,
it's got to be at the end of this year. So
I mean, right? I mean, the biggest thing for him the last 2 seasons was, all right, you left up, 62 and 40 or 50, whatever, to Ohio State in back-to-back years. But now it's happening to like almost every team. Like, you're letting up 30, 40 plus to every team. At this point, over halfway through the season, if he's not gone, I don't think he's going to be gone to the end of the year, which is, I don't know, crazy to me, but it's fucking 2020, COVID, all this shit. I mean, I can't see how he'll get extended.
What do you make of all those arguments that people throw out to not fire Don Brown, right? The COVID, the injuries, the guys opting out. What do you think about that? You think they're legit arguments, or you think they're just people full of shit?
No. Fuck you.
No. Fuck no.
No, because we said it last episode, right? Michigan has talented players. If you don't have a scheme or you're not coaching these guys well enough where you can plug them in and you're not doing your job. And like I said earlier, just 10 seconds ago to you, Kalen, like for him, it was 2017, 2018, or 2018, 2019, where he gave up big games to Ohio State, right? And now it's all season this season where he's giving up a 30, 40 plus with talented athletes, and he can't fucking do anything.
I mean, let's have some balls in our administration and everything and say, hey, you know what's not acceptable? Giving up 62 points to Ohio State when the fucking Big Ten championship is on the line.
Literally.
I mean, come on.
You beat them, you're in.
You
beat
100%.
them and you are fucking in.
100%. Like, you have to have some type of standard and not say, oh, well, Ohio State's pretty good, so, we just aren't able to keep up. Like, no. Have a standard that says, yeah, we are able to keep up because we have just, we have just the same amount of talent, same facility, same all this shit. Like, fuck. I can't believe I'm riled up about Don Brown right now, but like, fuck, man. I agree with you guys. I don't know if he's going to be fired after this year, and it's going to piss me the hell off if he's not.
Honestly, I think he'll be gone after the year. But the fact that frustrates me is I don't think he'll be gone until after the year, right? Like, we could let up 40 points to Penn State, and he'll fucking still be here.
Yeah.
It could be the same situation as Rutgers. It'll be a high-scoring game, and fucking Don Brown's still sticking around. You're gonna fucking put the defense at a place where they're like, all right, well, we know we're gonna give up 50 points. Good luck, offense. You better fucking score against one of the most talented teams in all of college football.
Right.
It just makes no sense to me. And like you said, with the standards, and Kalen, you brought it up, last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. If you're setting that standard for your program, you're fucked. They should have, and I wasn't on the train of getting rid of Don Brown after 2018, but after looking at everything we've seen now, if Michigan wants to live up to that standard, I think it's appropriate to get rid of coordinators if that happens. Head coach, maybe it's not always the best option, but coordinators, you might have to.
Yeah, so if you were to get rid of Don Brown mid-season, you just name some position coach as like a stand-in? Or how would you approach that?
Man. Put a GA back there. Put a guy. Why not? Put a guy who's fresh out of the game, who understands football. I mean, clearly, if you're fresh out of the game, you understand football. You know it worked well for you. You've been around the team. Why not? Why not give them a chance? If they let up 60 to fucking Ohio State, all right, it's a fucking grad assistant, right? But at least give them an opportunity. I mean, he's just got to go. I don't think if he's not fired by now, I don't think it's going to happen until the end of the season. But he's our biggest issue.
I mean, no doubt. The thing is that, okay, if you think that, COVID or injuries can be a reason to keep Don Brown, have you not watched him against, it's not just like this year has been the problem. I actually think he should have been gone after the 2018 Ohio State game, dude. I mean, you could promote any one of the other position coaches, and I think you get the same result, right? Like, you're not gonna. They gave up almost 500 yards to Rutgers.
Yeah,
they gave up.
You're not gonna do worse.
They gave up 370 pass yards to Rutgers. I don't care if you're injured, and they're not even injured at the in the secondary. They just have bad players, or they developed bad players. So I don't know, man. Half of me just wants to fucking give up to 100 to Ohio State to make sure that he's gone. Cause goddamn, like I don't know, man. There's just no way. I did want to go to Cade a little bit. One thing that I love to see about Cade, and I saw it on Twitter. I'm not even sure who wrote the article. But it says McNamara says he has a checklist and a daily schedule beginning Sunday to help prepare him for every opponent. On it is a list of pressures and first and second down coverages to look out for, along with third down plays and situational scenarios. He studies it and by Friday morning consolidates it for all for the Saturday game plan, which might explain why he's looked so sharp in his last two appearances. It allows me to play relaxed and confidently with my eyes, McNamara said. So what that leads me to think is maybe Joe Milton was relying too much on his athletic ability, that he was not doing that much preparation. So he thought, I've got a cannon, and we kind of saw this. He definitely forced some throws. He thought, I've got a cannon, I can do it all. I don't need to know every play inside and out. Cade, he's got athletic ability, we know that, but he doesn't have the arm or the athletic ability of Joe Milton. So he's always had to get by being more prepared and smarter than everybody else on the field, right? And that's obviously paying off. He hit everybody in stride. He made, like you said, the perfect level throws for each throw. He went to the right reads all the time. I just loved that. What do you guys think about Cade being maybe more prepared than any quarterback we've seen in the past?
Yeah. I mean, don't at me, but this is Tom Brady level shit, right? Like, he's not the most listen, hear me out. He's not the most athletic guy. He doesn't have the best arm, but he is mentally prepared for the fucking game, right? If you know what you're going up against and you've studied the playbook and you know what you're getting into, you don't have to be the most athletic guy, right? You just need to put a ball in the spot at the perfect time. That's why Tom Brady was so successful. He's not Tom Brady's probably the least athletic quarterback in the fucking NFL. Put him against all the fucking backups, all the third string guys. He is the least athletic guy and talented guy in the NFL, but you put his mind into it and he knows what he's working with, and he's on the top for a reason, right? I mean, that plays a huge part in it. Plays a huge part in the game. And that's why I think, after seeing that with that tweet that you just read out, it all makes sense. He's prepared for the game and he knows what he's getting into, and that's why he's had success. It's not accidental. We saw it 2 weeks in a row, right? We saw it for a sliver against Wisconsin, and then we saw it for a full half essentially against Rutgers. So I'm not saying he's fucking Tom Brady, but when you don't have all the athletic abilities as a guy like Joe Milton, that's the shit you have to do. And if you can do that, you can be successful. And based off Cade's stat line last week, if he can continue to do that, he'll continue to have similar games.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two parts to this. I was watching a video with Urban Meyer where he was talking about making the play caller's sheet. And the precursor to the play caller's sheet is the game book, and it's everything about the opponent. I would assume that you would give copies of the game book to your QBs who you think might play in the game, right? So the fact that Cade has basically a game book about his opponent coming up doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Milton got one too. So I think it really comes down to, guys like Joe who have just like a God-given ability and a lot of, athleticism. They tend to rely on that athleticism, which this is all pretty much exactly what Jack said. They tend to rely exactly on their athleticism, and, maybe they feel like I can skim through this book and then I can go out there on the field, rely on my arm. If a situation comes up, I can just throw a rocket and we're good. And we saw that kind of backfire a little bit for Joe. As opposed to Cade, he has to rely on, okay, my preparation, I'm showing up, I'm doing all the things I need to do, and that's where I'll see success. And obviously it's worked for him in high school, right? He's got freaking 12,000 yards. So we're seeing him kind of use the same approach, and that's exactly what Harbaugh loves. So I hope he continues to do it, and hopefully it continues to pay off.
Yeah, at this point, God, we better hope Cade's the guy, because if not, first of all, Dan Villari season, so I'm
Heisman 2021, baby, let's go.
People talking about JJ McCarthy don't even know about Dan Villari. But in all reality, like if you lose out on Dylan McCaffrey and then then Joe's not the guy, and then if Cade's not the guy, then you have to take a real hard look at Jim Harbaugh and say, if you can't do it with all these guys, then why is J.J. McCarthy the guy that's going to change it around? So
100% with you on that.
I think it's tough, but let's do some 0 to 90s and some predictions for this weekend's game against Penn State. Obviously, just everyone's all eyes going to be on Michigan Penn State at noon. Thankfully, actually, I think Ohio State plays
Thank God
at
it's
noon
a fucking noon game.
Yeah,
Oh, do they?
God. Yeah, Ohio State plays at noon too, so we don't even have to watch them, which is nice because I'm sick of watching them put up 600 yards a game and just thinking about them putting up 800, 900, maybe 1,000 against us. So, anyways, we'll focus on the toilet bowl here, Michigan versus Penn State. So, who wants to start with their 0 to 90 here?
I'm good. I'm ready.
All right, Jack, your 0 to 90 starts now.
So, according to ESPN, Penn State is favored to win this game. According to Vegas, Michigan is favored by 2.5, not 100% sure. But both defenses are fucking awful, averaging 36 points allowed per game. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I don't know what the over-under is. If you guys can throw that in there eventually, let me know. But I'm definitely taking the over for this game. And honestly, I think I'm going to take Michigan by 2 touchdowns. Is that my optimism coming out? Probably.
Yes.
But looking at their offense, I mean, Michigan's averaging more points per game than Penn State is. And looking at the talent that they've gone up against, I mean, Iowa, they probably should have scored more. Nebraska, they only scored 23. Maryland, they only scored 19. I don't know, man. I feel good about this game. If I was making a bet, I'd say Michigan by 10. But I'm confident Michigan will win the game.
So you're betting on Michigan?
I'm betting Michigan. I am. I'm going to bet Michigan. I'm going to bet the spread. I'm definitely betting the over.
The over is 40 or the over is 58.
Easy money. Easy fucking money there.
38 I mean that's 38-20 or
yeah. No, they're scoring points. Michigan's defense sucks and Penn State's defense sucks. They're going to score points, that's for sure. I'm just hoping Cade plays half as well as he did against Rutgers, and I think that comes true.
I mean, I don't hate it.
They're two bad teams.
2 really bad teams. It's like I feel like everybody watching Penn State this year, we watched right before Michigan, Minnesota, first game of the year, we watched Penn State, Indiana, and the crazy dive, which still I don't know if Mr. P got in or didn't.
It's like JT was short, basically.
But I feel like they're just this team, and I don't want to get too far into it here, but everyone was like, okay, they lost that tough game to Indiana, but Indiana's a solid team. Every week you're just waiting to like turn it on, right? And they just haven't, which is kind of crazy. So I'll leave it at that. Kalen, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Kalen, your 0 to 90 starts now.
With the first pick of the NFL draft. Oh, man. No.
Oh, my God. Dan Bellino starting at Penn State?
Dan Bellino. No way. I would love to see that. Honestly, if Dan Bellino stepped on the field, I would lose my mind. I don't think it's going to happen, but keep an eye out for Harbaugh punching his chest pad on the sidelines. What I really want to touch on is something I heard from Rich Rod in his podcast where he was saying something about like a Michigan man. And he's like, what the hell is a Michigan man? And someone was saying in an interview, like, what does it feel like to not be a Michigan man? And he's like, well, I am now. You hired me. So once you're hired, you're a Michigan man. So like, what the hell does the phrase even mean? I don't know. I'm kind of posing it as a question a little bit.
So I would say that they've talked to Ward Manuel about wanting Michigan men on the basketball side and the football side now. I think that people think that a Michigan man means you have to have ties to Michigan, right? You have to like either play here or used to be a offensive coordinator or position coach or something. I think it's more so it means that you have to understand and respect the traditions of Michigan and all that comes with Michigan, where Rich Rod came in and tried to blow the whole thing up, right, and change it to the spread offense and all that stuff. And I still don't even totally disagree with it, because if Rich Rod does that and he's successful, I mean, he's 10 years ahead of the rest of college football, right? Ohio State runs a fucking spread offense right now. So it's like, we're literally trying to run a spread offense in 2020. So I think it's more so you respect the traditions and the principles of Michigan, and you're not trying to like change everything up. All right. I think that nobody has a clue what's going to happen on Saturday, because half the fan base thinks Cade McNamara is a god, and there's no way he does anything other than throw for 75% completion percentage and 5 touchdowns every single game. That's not going to happen. So, and you know what? I understand Rutgers is good, better than normal, and Penn State's worse than normal. Sorry, I'm just like burping through my 0 to 90. Too many White Claws during this episode.
Too much carbonation.
I know, but I just think that you're never going to see, I don't want to say never, but when are you ever going to see him have 75% completion percentage again? And if he does, then, I mean, praise him, praise Josh Gaddis for the play calling and all of it. So let's lower the expectations on Cade McNamara a bit. If he even goes out for 60% completion percentage and 2 touchdowns, that's a win for Michigan. I think it's really more they have to keep Hassan Haskins and the run game going. And you have to have confidence. There's rumors out there, not even rumors. Ed Warner said that Mayfield and Hayes are practicing this week, so that's a big step. I thought that Carpenter did a lot better at center this week than Vastardis did. Unfortunately, I know Vastardis is our boy, Madison Uden's boyfriend. It's tough. But I just think that there's a lot more than just Cade McNamara to this team. So I want to see the defensive line, the defensive front play better. I just don't have a ton of confidence in this defense, and I just don't have a ton of confidence in this team. Anytime that they get to a decently big game, and like it's crazy to say an 0-5 team is a big game, but it's still Penn State. So I'm gonna say I gotta predict that they win. I don't know, but I'm gonna go with Michigan 38, Penn State 34 in a barn burner.
Yeah, I'm going Michigan 49, Penn State 45.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at. That's what I basically guessed. I mean, it's going to be a high-scoring game, that's for sure. And I think Michigan wins. But I think they'll win by 10. I'm going to go along what you said, Kalen. I'll probably say 45, 35.
So, I mean, let me ask this one question, and then we'll leave it at that. And you can't give an explanation. It's a yes or no answer. If Michigan loses this game, is Harbaugh done at the end of the year?
No.
See, I say no too. And that is so fucked up, man. Losing to an 0-5 team.
But to me, if he loses
no explanation.
game, it's on Don Brown.
Why is that not? That's a part of Jim Harbaugh's team.
It is. No, I 100% agree. He should be gone. 100%. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It's
a good question.
Fuck, man. I don't know. Yeah.
We're in a
I'm
bad
going to say
spot.
no, but to follow up, I don't know, because I shouldn't have followed up anyway.
We're in a bad spot. So, I'm glad that we started off this podcast with some positivity with Michigan basketball, because we ended it with negativity, which we have for the past, month.
Hasn't happened yet.
Let's speak some good things into existence, and hopefully they come true. So that'll be it. You can follow us at Blue by 90 on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, as well as Blue by 90 podcast on YouTube. Check it all out, and we will see you all next week. Have a great Thanksgiving.